creator and producer of what you're watching right now, Blade Talk. If you are new here, welcome, and you found this presentation helpful, informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. Always appreciate all the support that I am given. So in today's presentation, I wanted to go over the Jewish calendar as well as the concept of time. I want to explain this for those that may not understand, may not know, and give them a better understanding of how we view time and our calendar so they can better appreciate the holidays. So if you're interested, stay tuned, hit that intro, and let's begin. Alright, so again, I wanted to go over how the Jewish calendar works and explain it in a practical way. Now, when it comes to calendars, there are two different types. The calendar that most are familiar with is the solar calendar, which the Earth's revolution around the sun and the time it takes for us to go around the sun. As we know, it takes 365 days. The solar calendar is divided into 4 different sections, and those sections define the seasons. So we know according to the solar calendar when spring is going to come, then summer, then fall, then winter. So that is one type of calendar. Another type of calendar is the lunar calendar. This is defined by the moon going around the earth. 12 revolutions of the moon going around the earth is going to result in 1 lunar year. As a result, it is going to take 354 days, which of course is 11 days shorter than the solar calendar. In terms of the lunar calendar, it has nothing to do with the seasons. We can see this reflected in terms of who keeps the different calendars. The Christians, for example, observes the solar calendar. Therefore, Christmas is always going to be in the winter. It is fixed by the seasons. The Muslims don't keep the solar calendar. Instead, they keep the lunar calendar. So their holidays are not going to be defined by the seasons. They can come up at any time in the year. Sometimes Ramadan, for example, is in the heat of summer, but the following year it will always be 11 days earlier because, again, the lunar calendar is 11 days shorter than the solar one. So each year, Ramadan would take place 11 days earlier, which would put the holiday through various seasons on the solar calendar. So the Muslim holidays aren't fixed to any season, whereas the Christian holidays are. So now that we understand that, what about the Jewish calendar? What do we as Jews do? So our calendar is actually called a lunisolar calendar. It is a combination of the lunar and solar calendars. Let me explain. So you have the lunar calendar. Here is our typical month. The moon disappears and then appears, but it is young. Then it has a crescent. Then it becomes more full and it waxes until we get to the middle of the month where it becomes full and we have a full moon. Then it begins to wane and fade away until you can only see the small crescent again, and it disappears, and then we have the beginning of a new month. Now you may be wondering, how long is a lunar month? Technically, it is 29 and a half days, 44 minutes, and 2.8 seconds. This means, if you think about it, the new month should begin in the middle of the day because it is only 20 and a half days. So the next month should begin in the middle of the last day. But we don't do that. So how do we avoid this? Well, we end up making some months only 29 days, and some months we make 30 days. So over time, it will essentially average out. This is why the Jewish month is either 29 or 30 days. The Hebrew name for a month is called Chodesh. It is related to the word Hadash, which means new. So then we get the question of why not just keep the lunar calendar? Well, the interesting thing is that the Torah commands us that we have to observe Pesach or Passover in the spring. We also have to observe the holiday of Sukkot in the fall. God commands us to fix the holidays in their respective seasons. So we can't just keep a lunar calendar because, as we discussed, with the Ramadan and the Muslim faith, it will always take place 11 days earlier. Same concept here. If we strictly follow the lunar calendar, then Passover will be 11 days earlier each year, and it will find itself in winter, then fall, then summer. Same with Sukkot. We can't do this, as we would be violating the Torah. So how do we adjust the lunar calendar and fix it to the seasons of the solar calendar? So what we do is we adjust the calendar with a leap year, where we are actually going to add a 13th month, sometimes to the year. The last month in the Jewish calendar is called Adar. And what we do is we repeat Adar a second time, which will be the 13th month. We do this 7 times in 19 years, so we will never have a situation that over the issue of that Passover will be, in January or in summer or something like that. So why do we keep this lunar solar calendar? Well, I'll end this with one idea, but I think it's very fundamental. That is, we believe each season essentially is a physical manifestation of a spiritual reality. It isn't just that we like to have Passover in the spring and Sukkot in the fall. We believe the spiritual essence of Passover, which is a time of freedom, is expressed in the environment through the season of spring. So what's happening in the physical world is expressing what is happening in the spiritual world. For example, what's happening in the physical world in spring. Everything is essentially breaking through after a long, cold, dark winter. And that is expressing the spiritual reality that is expressed with Passover, which is freedom. Similarly, the holiday of Sukkot. The feeling, which is called the time of our happiness, is expressed through the season of autumn. Now, what's interesting about the Jewish calendar is it essentially has 4 New Years. Okay, the Jewish New Year is the first of Nisan. That's the first month, which is in spring and is the month of the Pesach holiday or Passover. This is the new year of the Jewish nation, and thus the date for the kings that we had at the time reign to be counted. In addition to the first of Nisan, there are also 3 other New Years. Another one being the first of Tishrei, okay? The new year of the world and the anniversary of its creation. So Tishrei is the new year of the entire world. Then there is the 15th of Shvat, or generally called Tu B'Shvat, which is the Hebrew pronunciation of the date. This new year is to signify the new year of the plants and nature, and is used to determine things such as when a tree turns 3 years old. All plants age on the same day with no differentiation. And then there is one more new year, which is the first of Elul, the new year of the animals, and the day on which animals are aged. And this is important in the Torah, since certain animals had to be of a certain age to be used as a sacrifice during the time of the temple. Nowadays, this is more of a technical day, and it is generally not celebrated the same way that the others are, and most don't even know that this holiday actually exists. So, what I want to do now is I want to switch gears and talk about the Jewish concept of time. Time is something that we oftentimes take for granted, and Jews view time differently as opposed to most people. So, the Western notion of time is linear. Time ultimately moves forward and progresses. Every day is another 24-hour puff of time in our existence that we live in. As we progress in age, more time is added to the continuum. That is the Western notion of time. So when we think of holidays and the Western notion, they really have no intrinsic relationship to the past. Meaning, July 4th this year really has no connection to July 4th of last year. That it was then and this is now. They share the same calendar date, but there is no inherent connection between them. We will use July 4th this year to commemorate what happened in the past, but the past is the past and the now is the now. Now, the Jewish notion of time is much more complex, so stay with me. The Jewish notion of time is that time is cyclical. So instead of imagining a line moving forward, the Jewish approach to the calendar and time, we have this idea that time is sort of a cycle that goes around and around, but instead of bumping into the past, there's an element of change. So it kind of spirals upward, but there's a relationship to what happens today and what happens yesteryear. We understand that there are times within the calendar that we actually confront something that happened from the past, if you can imagine like these beams of light. So in terms of the Jewish holidays, their holiness is derived from the past meeting up with the present. I'll give an example. Let's take Passover. That freedom that we experienced by the Jewish people, that was experienced by the Jewish people when we left the land of Egypt and became a nation, that freedom, even though it was a local event for the Jews back then at that time, at that cycle of time, the light that was revealed through that event of freedom still continues to exist and traverse through time. So every year, when the Jewish people meet up with Passover, we're not commemorating what happened all the way, back then, but we are actually reliving and experiencing a light that is relevant to us and our generation. This way, we access what they went through collectively and grow from the event. So holidays are very different as they are very dynamic. We have to meet up and prepare for them so we can receive that light. When we look at the Hebrew word for year, right, it's Shana. Many know this because obviously we say on Rosh Hashanah, Shana Tova, which literally means have a good year. The word Shana in Hebrew is linked to different roots, though. For example, the word Lishnot means to repeat, because that is essentially what is happening every year. We are repeating a cycle. On the other hand, it can also mean change or Ashinawe. A change is related to that root word Shana. Even though we are reviewing this cycle, there's an element of change because the Jewish people have changed. We advance another year forward. It's kind of like if you go to Florida. Even though it's a different year. You still get the beaches, it's the same palm trees, the same sand, the same ocean, but it's a different year. So it is sort of the inverse. You go back to the example of Passover, and even though it is a different millennia, it is the same environment that existed. Like when you get back to the beaches, you feel a certain way. When you get to the holiday of Passover, you feel a certain way every year because you're touching something that we've experienced before that still exists through time. It is a consistency. To break it down even further, you ever heard, a Christian or someone that celebrates Christmas or Easter say something like, I'm not in the mood this year, or it doesn't really feel like Christmas, or I don't really have the Christmas spirit, things like that. Because we as Jews are going through a cycle of time, there's no such concept because we always know what is coming and we feel it. Okay, so time is even reflected in some of the holidays. We have different names for Jewish holidays to back this idea up. One is a moed. This word literally means a meeting point. Remember, we went through the crash course of the Torah. The Jews built the tabernacle in the desert, which was called Ohel Moed, or a tent of meeting. That is where God's presence was, Moses was, and the Jewish people would meet, so to speak, God there. So it is a meeting place. So there is a meeting point in time that the holidays represent. Another name for the holidays is Yom Tov, or in Yiddish, sometimes people may say Yontif, but it means good day. Now, the first time Tov or good is used in the Torah is in terms of light. God saw the light that it was good. So these are days that are good because there is a light that shines through these days that we access, enrich ourselves with, and grow from. Two other names you might be familiar with is Chag, which means festival. So you may have heard something like Hag Sameach, which kind of translates to happy holidays. We also have the word regal. Regal means a pilgrimage. Okay, there's certain holidays within the Torah where Jews have to make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. And regal literally means leg because we have to use our legs to walk to Jerusalem. So I say all of this to say that the Jewish concept of time is completely different, and you have to be able to open your mind enough to really comprehend how Jews view time. It's not linear. It is, in fact, a cycle, and we're going through the cycle. So we feel a certain connection to holidays. So you'll never find a Jew that says, it doesn't feel like Passover. It doesn't feel like Sukkot. There's a certain essence and feeling behind it. So I hope this explains and breaks down the Jewish concept of time as well as the Jewish concept and how we use our calendar. So if you found this presentation helpful and informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Blade Talk. Be good to yourselves, be good to others, and until the next episode, you all take care.